Hey, Brian, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you.
Great.
So how many inches do we really have?
Well, and I think we'll, are you ready, Lisa?
I'm ready.
Okay, we're gonna, as long as you're on TV, how much you get paid for being on TV?
This much.
In case the government kept you open, otherwise we probably wouldn't even seen you.
Yep, I'm very happy to be here today.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order on the 2nd of October. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of time, place, and agenda of this meeting. Roll call will indicate all members are present. And what's your pleasure on the agenda?
Move to approve. Second.
Any further discussion on the agenda? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion's carried. And then you also had for your pleasure the minutes from the 11th of September.
Motion to approve.
Ken?
I'll second that.
Dennis? Any further discussion on the minutes? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion's carried. Open comment? Nobody here. Thankfully not like Portage County. Uh,
No.
I think Lisa, you're up right away.
Okay, great, thank you. Like I mentioned, I'm really glad to be here. We're open for business for at least another 45 days. And glad to say we are because we have a lot of work to do. I didn't want to hold up anybody's payments for the work they've already done out there, so I'm glad we can continue that. Yeah, so I'll start with EQIP. We've been working on completing and verifying conservation practices that people have done and making payments. The next sign up is November 3rd. That's the next sign up deadline. So we've been receiving quite a few applications. I don't have a tally on those just at the minute. I'm somewhere hovering in the 40 application range. But our computer isn't really set up to put all the applications in the system yet. So, but we're somewhere in the 40 range right now. And then we've been doing a lot of site visits and site evaluations for new applications. So that's been probably the majority of the work that we've done in the EQIP program. So since I was not at the last meeting, I'll report all the practices that were done after August 7th, which was the last time I reported to your committee. We had a field border and a critical area planting. That one was kind of neat because there was erosion in the field, but really we solved it just by revegetating certain critical areas in the field. So a real low cost solution. We had 4 livestock pipeline systems for grazing operations. We had 1 deer barrier fence completed for forest regeneration. 3 brush management projects for invasive species control. 6 managed grazing payments, so those would be the payments for people who followed their grazing plan for the season, new grazers. 1 low disturbance manure application. We should start getting those paid pretty soon, because we typically ask people to report all their low disturbance manure application at the end of the year. This particular person, Derek's been working with him. He's kind of on the county line, so it took a while for us to get records from him, so we finally got the records and made the payment. We had 2 tree establishments, although one I think might be a failure. We're gonna do a tree count within the next few weeks to see how many survived the drought. Not looking too good though. 1 forage and biomass planting for managed grazing, so that's like a pasture seeding. 1 pretty big project, forest trails and landings, so that would be to put in a temporary road to facilitate forest activities. And then we had 4 watering facility and fencing projects for managed grazers. So quite a few practices completed and paid since my last report. Under the conservation stewardship program, we completed the new contracts for the fiscal year. And now we're working on the renewals of the contracts that expired during this year. And we only have 1 of those, so that's going to be a pretty light workload, but we anticipate another CSP sign up sometime after January 1st. Under human resources, I introduced you to Scott Doherty last meeting. There's actually an opening for promotion that came up between then and now, and he took that, which is great for him. So he's going to be moving back to the Westfield office as a resource conservationist. And we are in the process of hiring a replacement for him. But it worked out fine because Ben is on leave, paternity leave, because him and his wife had their baby. So Scott was able to fill in while Ben was gone. So it worked out just fine. And then the only other item I have left is regarding our fiscal year 24 funding. So now we're in fiscal year 24, at least for the federal side of things. Chief Cosby, he's our NRCS chief. He announced last month that $3 billion will be made available in 2024 to ag producers nationwide to adopt climate smart practices through NRCS programs. And that's through all of our programs. So that's EQIP, CSP, RCPP, ag easements, wetland easements, the whole gamut. So this funding will address new applications as well as a large backlog nationwide. Wisconsin doesn't have a huge backlog, but we do have a backlog for most of these programs. So that will address some of that. And in my report that I sent to Brian, I included a link so you can click on that and learn more about that additional funding that's coming out next year. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
That was with a B, billion, 3?
B, 3 billion.
You think a lot of that? You don't even know the answer, I guess. I asked Brian the question, he said how much do you think of that might come to Opaca County? Because there was some stipulations and guidelines on it.
Yeah, so I sent Brian the list of practices that we can cover through our EQIP and CSP program in order to earn that money. And most of the practices are what we call soft practices, anything that addresses climate change. So cover crops, no-till, this low disturbance manure application, tree planting, pollinator plantings, a lot of very easy to install agricultural practices. The big manure pits are not on that list. So it's mostly management type practices that could address climate change.
I got one other question is where I am up by Clintonville, there has been awful dry. And this year, for some reason, I don't know if I even seen a monarch butterfly all year. Which I got the habitat for them, but I don't know where they are.
I haven't looked at the data for this year yet, to be honest with you. I know they did have a hard winter down in Mexico last year, so a lot of it is that they're not overwintering real successfully. But I don't know, they were out there. I did see quite a few this year, and we reared a few in a terrarium in my house, but yeah, they're out there, but I didn't see them in the numbers I typically see. I kind of agree with you on that. It seemed really low to me.
So do they get to fly around your house then?
No, once they hatch out of their chrysalis, we let them go. Outside.
Kind of team though, when they first get out of that cocoon, they're they even sit on your finger.
Yeah, yeah, they did. Well, we observed a bunch of the caterpillars actually getting eaten by other things. So, you know, that we always think that nothing eats them because they're poisonous, but they actually do have predators as well. So after we saw that, we collected a bunch and brought them in.
Questions for Lisa? Well, I hope you get a new employee.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay. If you don't mind, I'm gonna just, I'll stay on the meeting, but I'm gonna stop the video if that's okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Supervisor reports, I'm not.
Yeah,
aware that anybody
FSA,
went to-
FSA, we don't have anything yet.
No.
So as far as supervisor reports, three of us did go down to Green Lake. Ken, you wanna say something or?
It was very interesting, you know, how to catch phosphorus. And the way it was set up, this drainage was the perfect spot to stop phosphorus from running into Green Lake. I mean, it was an ideal setup. I mean, how you could get it any better than what it ever was. It was just a matter of taking dirt, filling the ravine up and running pipe through the filter. The problem is they never got to use it yet because it hasn't been dry. So now they finally got rain, so it'd be interesting to see how those aluminum fibers are gonna catch the phosphorus coming off the ground. It'll be interesting. A lot of the money spent in engineering, but I think the engineering, I think they had a little problem getting it approved without the engineering to have it done proper, but I think once it's you've done it once, I think you don't need the engineering cost.
I
It was
think they-
$6,000.
I think they said as much that they would now be able to build that themselves, so.
So what's this aluminum fiber?
It's the second one we've seen like this. We went to one in Outagamie last year.
It's just aluminum, like grindings. It's all it is. It's just, and you suppose you can clean it.
In big feed bags, Jim. So they run a siphon pipe off the bottom of the, so first of all, there's a wascab or sediment basin in the edge of the field.
Yep.
And which normally has a pretty big pipe in this case, because that was a big watershed. But they run a siphon pipe off the bottom that goes through the dike and into a series of plastic tubs that have these bags of aluminum shavings in them that are supposed to react with the phosphorus.
Okay,
So as the water passes through them, it gets treated. And I don't recall how long they said the shavings are good for, but they've got a monitor on it too, with a solar panel and stuff. So they'll be taking tests periodically after the rain falls to see what the phosphorus in and phosphorus out is, but
so the aluminum reacts with the phosphorus in the water and it ties, you got a chemical reaction.
Right. And then they said in the end, you can either take the aluminum bags out and get them cleaned, or you can just replace them with new ones, but sounds like it's cheaper to just replace it, but
Being in Green Lake County there, right where we were there. That field had lima beans that they had taken off just
Yeah.
prior.
Awful lot of them left on the ground too.
Well, at least on one spot there.
Yeah.
Dennis, do you have something?
I know, I thought that boat washing system, I thought it cost them a lot of money to get that set up because they had to put that whole drainage system in there and put some new blacktop on there, you know, to let it. Didn't have that much area for it to drain through, but they still had it was pretty expensive system to put that in.
Is it for the zebra mussels?
Yeah.
What?
Okay, all right, and this is still clean? Green Lake, is it, does they have any problems yet?
Well, I think everybody has problems, yeah.
But it wasn't too bad. The water looked pretty.
No, but I think zebra mussels are
Oh,
probably there, so.
we're trying to minimize that with that.
A lot of expensive homes on that.
Oh, yes, there is.
Yeah, and the Green Lake Sanitary District and the Green Lake Association both have a lot of funding. So they get to do some of these more expensive experiments around there. Cause they had what, 50,000 stuck into the whole boat wash station
Yeah.
too, so.
Yeah, they got 3-4 different inlets where the money's coming to,
Mhm.
so they kind of team together.
Because the boat wash doesn't use scalding hot water, they have to treat the water before it goes back in the lake out of the parking lot.
Oh,
If they use scalding hot water, they could just let her fly.
right,
But then they're worried about the liability of somebody
She gets
spilling their
burned.
coffee on their lap, so.
yeah, and it would happen.
So Craig, what do you think as I sat with two of the guys from the Land and Water from Green Lake County in the back of the bus, so we talked other stuff, but how much you think the highest priced house there, the real estate taxes are a year?
I think they're 30,000 on the chain, so they're probably higher than that.
Yeah, 50,000.
50,000.
That's your taxes?
Yeah.
Wow.
God.
My wife did a kitchen
Jeez.
for a couple on the west end there. And these people had a big home, North Chicago suburb. And they had a penthouse on the Drake Hotel downtown. And then they had a place in Arizona.
They said 75% of the people on that lake are from Illinois.
Yeah.
75%.
That's-
Our coach from Green Bay's got a place there too.
Wow.
And Mr. Culvers, he's got a place. there.
There's how many boat landings did you say to get in there?
Oh, there's not that many boat
I don't know
landings.
exactly how
3
many
or
there
4,
are.
I thought.
There's only 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah.
It's kind of like another Lake Geneva.
Yeah, yeah.
That's basically what it's-
Is there parking there or not?
There
I mean,
was
I've gone
it,
around
there was
Lake.
at the one we were at, it was a pretty good.
Yeah, that was
parking
off
lot.
of a road there, pretty, was that a county trunk road or was
I
it?
think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was a county road. But no, county road went to a side road down in there. Then it wasn't, we went on a county and we took a left and went down. I thought that was a side road.
Yeah, for a
It
little
was-
bit, I
it
think.
seemed like a pretty decent road going
Yeah.
by there. It was interesting. Okay,
When you got the money, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got the funding. Get the funding. Besides, it's ideal. If they got the money and funding and the thing might work,
If somebody else can take
I
the
mean-
idea. and-
Let them figure it out.
yeah.
Yeah. We can copy the idea after they've done the hard part.
I didn't realize, but down in that area, there was, they were pointing out, these guys were pointing out that field, red beets were taken off of it shortly before. So they got the canning companies there, I guess, and they got a lot of,
Different crops down
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Lot of vegetable.
A lot of vegetable crop. But on the way down there, I mean, I thought we were dry in Clintonville, but those fields that were not irrigated on the way down, I mean, I've never seen miserable looking corn in my life. It was terrible.
Well, yeah. When we went to the Dells, that was pretty bad
It
too.
was,
down
yeah.
in some towns.
Okay,
All right, so my meeting reports, our monthly demo farm management team was mostly about the new agreement, which came and was signed by us and really just some differences in and how the payment's gonna work. A little bit less direct money out of the counties and a little bit more in-kind labor. So coming up shortly, I'll have to formulate some new agreements with our partner counties there to reflect those differences now that we're into day one of the new fiscal year here, so. However, we do have an extension of the last agreement for the demo farms project, because we had, I don't know, we got $50,000-$60,000 left in it, so that'll probably float us along for half a year or so yet. But, and they wanted us to use that money up first, regardless of what topic it was for, so. And then, like we discussed, we went to the Lake Winnebago Association Summer Fall Tour. I think we saw 3 sites. You guys mentioned 2 of them. The third one was a shoreline project on Green Lake that had been done in a real mucky soil, so
Is
they,
that on the west side?
you know, I was lost.
Drove around the lake.
I think we're more on the west than the east.
I think you are right. It was on the west.
Yeah, probably, because the prevailing winds would be beating that shore up all the time. Well, no, they wouldn't if it was on the west. But anyway, they brought in quite a bit of mineral soil and rocks to stabilize what was a hydric soil there along the shore.
That filling wetlands.
Yeah, it probably was, and
Yeah.
The DNR.
they worked with the DNR. They still,
Thing of it was, but the thing of it was actually pulling mud back into the lake, and that's what they wanted to stop.
right? They had tried a couple different things. They had tried doing some natural stuff a few years ago with trees and fish sticks and stuff like that. And when you're talking about a lake the size of Green Lake, natural stuff doesn't work, so. You've got a pretty good fetch and a water depth that was what, 90 feet, they said, or over 100 feet.
That's how deep it is.
Yeah,
Oh, it's the deepest spot's deeper than that.
yeah.
200 feet.
Deepest is 200
It's
feet.
the deepest lake
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the-
in
it's the
Wisconsin.
deepest in Wisconsin.
Yeah,
How many
it's the
acres is
deepest
that
lake in Wisconsin. I thought it was like 230 feet.
It's deep.
I know, it's,
I'd have to Google it for the answer.
yeah, I don't have a phone that'll do that either.
So anyway, that that was kind of the end of that tour. I thought all in all, it was a pretty good tour.
There's one coming up, 15th. Is it Kewaunee County?
Oh, that's a technical tour.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's usually a staff tour. I know they're looking at
that one sounded,
how to determine depth to bedrock for all
Right.
their spreading regulations over there. I know that was on the agenda.
7,340 acres. Maximum depth of 237.
I was pretty close.
7,300 acres.
That's big.
It's big.
The section is 640. Wow.
That's 10, 11, 12 sections.
Almost half a ton.
You know, Wisconsin's got more lakes than Minnesota.
Yes.
Who would have thought that? We got like 17,000 lakes in Wisconsin. See what you done to me? You made a monster out of me.
Gotta know all this stuff.
I think you were a monster. You're just focusing your energy.
Just now we all know it.
Yeah, so next year we'll have, well, there'll be 2 more, you know, a spring and a fall meeting. The spring one's not always a tour. It was this year for us, but which was the one over in Calumet on their trout stream, but just more opportunities for you folks to get out and see some stuff if you want to when the time comes. And unfortunately, one of these times next year, or the year after, we're gonna have.
Probably have to be here.
Oh, yeah, it's almost our turn to host one, so. You try to think in your mind what new and crazy thing you have to showcase, and I don't know if there's much lately. But we had done a few things with the foundry sand some years ago, and we were kind of on the cutting edge of that, so.
Yeah, they were kind of fortunate, but everything's surrounding Green Lake. You know, where it makes, you got projects all over.
Yeah, we don't have that one large feature like that, you know, Winnebago County's a lot like that too. They do a lot of stuff with the lake itself. They've got some unique shoreland projects, but outside of those two counties, you don't see a lot of big lake stuff like that.
Here's a bit of trivia. Green Lake is 1,000 acres larger than Shawnee Lake.
Holy
Isn't
crap,
that
I never would have thought
I
that.
was on Shawnee Lake Saturday and I thought that was one of the largest other than Mendota and Winnebago.
Oh.
Green
great.
Lake is 1,000
That is
acres bigger. Wow.
I wouldn't have known that. Maybe you gotta go to Green Lake next weekend. Okay, moving along, I just had threw an ARPA projects update on here. Really, and it's a lack of update. So if you recall, we've got 110,000 of ARPA for harvestable buffers. I don't know what to call it. It's really not ARPA. Heidi did some other shell movement to move money around and took it out of ARPA, but we'll keep referring to that because that's really the process that made it happen. So. And then we had 27,000 for well testing onto about 7,000 that was left over from the ATC fund yet from last time, from the well testing last time. I had really hoped we were gonna do some well testing this summer, but we've kind of committed to doing it through our own facility here upstairs with Jed, and he just notified me about 2 weeks ago that they finally got certified for nitrate. They had bought the equipment to do nitrate testing. They had bacteria already. Previously, they had taken nitrate tests in, but they shipped it out to some other lab. Now they have their own lab and testing equipment upstairs. I think that'll be really beneficial for us to run a testing program where we don't have to do this, you know, the stuff we did in 2018, we did it at various town halls in bulk, you know, where we'd take in about 100 samples a night and then have to ship that over to the university in the morning and wait for the results. And now we'll be able to do this with smaller groups or walk-ins or different methods of targeting people. The downside was we had to wait this summer until Jed could catch up. So the things we're looking for really don't occur as much in the winter, so we don't generally do a testing in the winter. We're, you know, generally looking for nitrates. We do that in the spring, summer season. So probably by next May, we'll have a targeting program laid out to do some outreach to folks for those samples along with bacteria.
So with the bacteria, are you able to differentiate if it's animal or human or?
I don't think so. I think that's a pretty high-tech lab.
If it shows up, then take another sample and send it to where they can.
Yeah, I honestly, Jim, I would say 99% of bacteria in this county is gonna be at least non-bovine,
Right.
unless you're wellheads in the middle of your pasture, but
Shell.
what we saw last time is, and we had, I think we had like 25% positive hits on bacteria. But it's almost always environmental related to their well. Either they had a pit well. First of all, you get a lot of false positives because people don't follow the instructions on how to sanitize their faucet or wherever they're drawing the sample from before they do it. But then of the ones that are not false positives, you kind of got to look around and see, you know, some of them have pit wells where they got critters, mice and salamanders and stuff crawling around in there. And, you know, there's just a number of things like that happen that cause the bacteria. And I mean, it's still good for them to know that they should clean up their stuff, but I don't expect that we're gonna see a lot of bovine related. I mean, maybe in sand country, it'd be the western third of the county might have a chance, but it's not Kewanee.
No,
Just ain't the same thing.
right.
The nitrate, on the other hand, I think is different. I mean, a lot of the high nitrates we see, you can generally look around the watershed and probably make some possible correlation, but no, groundwater is still a bit voodoo. That's my opinion. I mean, even when you look at Portage County, I mean, you know, there's stuff going on over there in the ag world that's causing those problems, but you know, can you differentiate whether it's commercial fertilizer, animals? I don't know that you can without going to that other testing that they've done some of that in Kiwanee, the real expensive testing to try to narrow those things down. So.
Is there anything gained by having some of those that had high concentration of this to test again, or is it a mute issue?
I think that's what we had talked about doing with this new round of testing. We're gonna look at some of the folks that were high last time and we were gonna try to get another test. I also think we were gonna look around their neighborhood and try to get a few more to see if it's really
Spread out.
spread out or if this is a one-off issue for a particular landowner, so.
Do you by any chance know who did the testing on that Fulton that was on Highway W? By between Reedfield and London? If that was done proper, Kurt Summers originally put that Fulton in.
Yeah, that was,
He called and hollered at me and he's gotten pretty old.
because they took it out.
Yeah, because he claimed that they didn't. Chlorine, I guess chlorine on a toothbrush and you gotta clean it.
Yeah, I don't know. So the health department was doing that upstairs. Because that well was located in a right of way of County W. The health department had been doing some of the testing, but I think
It was located on the edge. I don't know if it was in the right of way.
it was, yeah, because we had a big discussion about whose legal liability that was a few years ago. I recall
No,
that.
everybody was pretty mad to get close to it.
Yeah. In the end, the health department and Diane came to the conclusion that it was a liability. I think what happened, kind of, somebody took a test for arsenic and sent it in, and that was positive also.
Well, that means everything over there. I mean, it comes from the southeast, so I mean,
Winnebago County's got
these
a,
other wells test good, so that's why I'm thinking it was false testing. Yeah, that Fulton, but that's a good Fulton. though.
you'd have to ask Jed which ones they're testing in the county. Any of them that would be in our right of way, I think, get tested, so.
Go see that Fulton, and that's closer to the road on X than the one that was on W, right? A lot of people, I mean, you wouldn't leave the car line up there. on
Oh,
W.
I believe it. I drive by the town of Lynn on my way home a couple nights a week and there's always people there.
Crazy.
Even
Especially-
after somebody spread manure or the city spread septage on the field next to it a few times. And
Even when the power's out, don't even bother. Cause it's a village down there.
crowded, yeah. Yeah, it's not surprising, so. But then, getting back to the ARPA project, then the harvestable buffer side of this. What happened last year was unexpected, but we had gotten another $45,000 from DATCAP for harvestable buffers for this current year, 2023. I had not expected that at all at the time, where they had been giving us less and less money, and I thought we were close to the point where they were not going to give us any at all, or somewhere around the $20,000 range, and instead they gave us 45,000 again. So we've had all we could do to contract and spend that up in this current year. So. But that's all right. We've got several more years to spend the ARPA funds. So one thing that I did have interesting happen here about 2 weeks ago was I got a call related to harvestable buffers. I got a call from Chris Murphy, who used to be my counterpart in Adams County. Then he left and went to work for Rock County for a while. And when he was in Rock County, he got into working on the water quality trading stuff that the state allows now. And he recently retired from Rock County and then took a job working for the company that serves as the water quality trading clearinghouse in Wisconsin. So when they get money from a private company to do water quality work, it kind of goes through his company. And he called up the other day and said, hey, we've now got money in the Wolf Basin. He said, if you've got any projects. So I had a discussion with him about what those could be. And one of the things they like to do are buffers, harvestable buffers. And I told them, you know, what we have money and that we're right in that $125 to $150 range. But I said, we've started to see a little bit of struggle for that amount of money to take hold. And he said, well, we could take our water quality money and bump that offer up. He said, if you have really good sites and they have to model the sites ahead of time. But he said, we're making offers in the $300 an acre range for those buffers if they're top quality sites. So he said, if you were interested in piggybacking, he said, we could do a half and half with your money or something like that. So I said, we'd certainly be interested in that or maybe several other projects, not this year anymore, obviously, but for next year. And I think we'll see more of that. I mean, there's going to be more companies paying towards that water quality trading, which is another option, sort of like the multi-discharger variance was, except that's run by the DNR. This is run by a private clearinghouse. So we could see some offers for some good sites where we could consider a much larger sum per acre in the right location.
You may not have to go up to doubling.
Right,
That's Rock County's rates are.
right.
That's always.
Yeah, he's historically right now, he's working in the Madison, Rock County, Janesville area, so. Yeah, we might see a lot of interest at $200, so. And I guess the beauty of working with that entity is they're just looking for us to do the technical assistance. They would handle the contracting and the paperwork and all the stuff that we don't like to do, so. Okay, moving along, I do have some more cost share agreements. Unfortunately, I didn't put them on a nice piece of paper and send them out to you. Stefan was out of work all week last week. He's normally the guy that puts that stuff together. But we do have a fairly significant list here of cover crop contracts that we didn't approve last time. Most of these would be with our DATCAP funding source. So a lot of these are the $25 an acre ones or partially in that range. So we've got a new one for Double Take Dairy, 207 acres. We've got Joel Bartle at 206 acres. We have Jerry Schmidt with looks like 230 acres. Scott Seward at 123 acres. Dick Piaski at over 700 acres. And then possibly a couple hundred acres, looks like 234, Ron Brooks. Then we have a couple more new ones. Leo Johnson from Manawa. They now own the old Mork farm in Scandinavia. Looks like 140 acres there. And then Jeff Henschel, who has some land in the Bear Lake and some out. He's got one here that's out at 113 acres. So those would need approval. Make DATCAP happy.
Oh, they're all planted already?
No, they're not planted yet. They're probably going in starting this week, so.
Piaski, is that mostly? What would he be planting? Probably rye?
Yeah, all of these are gonna be rye at this point, because the seeding deadline for non-rye wheat or triticale is mostly passed. You could do oats yet, but oats are a lesser rate because they don't overwinter. So the other thing that happened just on Thursday or Friday last week, which we expected, but the seeding deadline for all of these overwintering, like rye, triticale, and winter wheat, is in NRCS's standards, it's October 15th, but they now sent an email out that they extended it to October 31st again, which they've been doing for a number of years in a row now. As long as they foresee decent weather, that's been pretty typical, so. I would say 95% of what we cost share on is rye or maybe wheat. The ones that are a bigger mix, those are usually in by early September, so.
Those acres you just mentioned, those are harvestable buffers?
No, those are cover crops, just mostly winter rye on corn silage or soybeans. Couple of them are probably wheat fields from last year that don't have anything in them, so.
I put my rye in on Saturday.
Be knee high by the time it freezes. Yeah,
Well, it's gonna come up anyway.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're pretty safe yet, so.
5 days, mine was 3 inches tall. Crazy. I don't know how they could germinate that fast, grow right.
We're gonna need a motion on this.
Make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on those? Call the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I was just gonna mention for those of you that are county board members, if you haven't read your latest county booklet that came in the mail here at Towns for the county association, it's devoted all to land. And there's a lot of good figures in there for it talks about the 3 billion and everything else.
Yeah.
So
We
that
agree.
No, the regular county
When
board.
it comes in the mail.
gonna come in the mail here in a couple days. It's almost all devoted to cover crops and all the different things that are going on with land and water. So it's really of interest if you want to spend a little.
When did
time.
that come for you?
It came on Friday.
Mine
Say, I don't
was
think I got
Saturday.
my copy in.
Mine came on Friday.
Mine was Saturday. She had it buried in a pile. And I went through it all this morning. I thought, I gotta sort this out.
But anyway, the whole thing is devoted to changing landscape. It talks about 6,000 farmers left, dairy farmers. It's hard to believe because when I started with Farm Credit back in 1967, 68, there was 56,000 dairy farmers.
But I think that didn't mention that there's something like 450 billion they create.
Jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really,
Yeah.
a lot of statistics in there about the
It was good.
benefit.
I always go through it. I skim and I find something interesting that I'll read it and then I'll bypass the next 3, but was interesting.
Yeah, it talks about the cover, the crops that are raised in Wisconsin. I didn't even realize we're ranked way up there in the amount of oats planted. I didn't realize that.
1 and 2 are almost everything. Cranberries number 3. Yeah, it was interesting.
Anyway, if you get a chance, read it.
Ginseng.
Ginseng's in there, yep. I don't even see any ginseng right around here locally anymore. Is there?
Terry Drath has some.
He still got some left?
Yeah, I think so.
Poverty
He
Hill
used
Road.
to, but
Yeah, Poverty Hill Road, he's
Yeah,
on
still got
that
some?
great farm, he's got some and
Can't really see it, can you, from the?
yeah, it's on the south side. It's Fred Recre's place, so.
So how long after they harvest that, do they have to leave the land?
Forever.
Yeah,
I
it
don't think
sucks
ever
everything
comes
out, doesn't
back.
it?
Ginseng? I don't know anything about
You
ginseng.
can plant anything you want afterwards, just not ginseng
Right.
again.
Okay, so there's still nutrients in the ground or not?
Yeah, but it's like anything else, you gotta fertilize and not just mine the soil.
Right, yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah,
I was always told it was, was pretty much dead ground for years.
you shouldn't replant ginseng on it because it's a root crop and you get disease buildup. It's like the potato farmers, they rotate, they'll skip maybe 4 years between when they plant one potato crop.
unless they fumigate it.
Yes. And ginseng being that's more of a health food thing, they aren't gonna go to the bother of fumigating because that would kind of, they wouldn't want that word to get out,
No,
so.
I mean, that-
In Marathon County, a lot of guys paid their mortgages off completely with
Ginseng.
ginseng.
Anyway, I just, before I forgot, I just want to make sure you read it.
All right, so moving on to number 11 here, my report, we've got quite a few projects lined up for fall. We're still finishing up one manure storage in Bear Lake there with Bruce Heimbrook. The Bear Lake funding ends from the original trim grant in December. So we've got that project and some of that also dedicated to the Bob Iwart, to the notice of discharge with him. The guys have been out working with him a little bit finally here. And then we've got quite a handful of sediment basins going in with various funding sources. Hopefully the weather stays good. So we've got things lined up, but we've probably, a lot of them are the same two contractors doing a lot of this. So you hope weather doesn't go bad when that happens. We finally have a meeting with the Fox Wolf Watershed Alliance coming up. It'll be actually after gun season, so late November, to talk about the Climate Smart grant that we've been waiting all year for here. So we'll know a little bit more about how we can go about the hiring process there and what other money is available. They've actually got a couple of Climate Smart grants already. That's probably a term we're going to keep hearing over and over again here, especially with $3 billion coming down the pipe here for it. But on a really happy note, Taylor in our office took her CCA test last week and passed that. So she got her agronomy certification. We had our 5th grade field day on Friday. So that was kind of a mess this year leading up to it. Historically, so we do that in Hartman's Creek, and they've got a kind of an educational area with a parking lot over there. And on the south side of that parking lot is the horse parking lot for the folks that horse ride. And we've done our compass orientation course in that horse parking lot for probably 10 years. But we've had a couple of problems, and they've been getting more abundant recently with a lot of people showing up with horse trailers and parking in the middle of where we're trying to have this course. So I finally told the manager at Hartman's Creek and the folks at Golden Sands that run this, I said, we need a new location. We can't keep having this conflict. It's very problematic. And they had a nice little field right next to the parking lot. It just needed to be mowed. It was nothing but invasive species anyway. They wouldn't let us mow that. So we ended up on the beach, which was a 1/3 of a mile walk for the kids. Which is, you kind of got to keep the 5th graders marching along on task at that point, but it ended up going all right. Like I said, we did have, Golden Sands didn't tell me, but somebody didn't show up because we ended up with a dead spot. There's 7 sessions that the kids and the teachers pick. We had a 19 or 20 stations, so they don't get to go to all of them. They pick 7, and there's a schedule written up, and they work their way through their 7 stations, and then they have a lunch break and quite a bit of DNR stuff. They've got the fur bearers and the biologists are out there doing fish stuff. They got a couple stations right down on the shore of the lake there where they pick bugs out of the lake and do various things. But so that was Friday. Our compass orienteering, as they work their way through the course, they all pick up a piece of a map, a treasure map. And the treasure is the box full of candy that I brought in. So we've got that hidden in the woods at the end. They got to put the map together and go find their candy before they leave. And by about the 5th or 6th session, the kids come down, usually after lunch, because they've talked to each other. And they come running down, like, where's the candy? There's no candy here. It's only treasure, no candy. So it's fall cover crops. Our cedar use is pretty heavy right now. We got another interesting thing that's new this year. So, we administer the deer damage program, And there's two aspects of that, the part where you have to open your land up to other hunters because you want to take the payment. That's pretty rare in this county yet. But we do have a lot of participation in the aspect where you get Greg goes out and does the damage assessment that gets forwarded to DNR, and the DNR biologist issues deer killing tags, right? For you, or you can have designated shooters to fill the tags. So there's been a lot of tags getting filled here lately, but because CWD was found in the northern part of the county last year, every deer that gets shot on a crop damage tag has to have the head submitted for testing this year. So Greg's running around collecting deer heads from the people that have tags to get them back over to the biologist at DNR before, before they get, well, right now, before they get stinky, because it's warm out, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, more and more, I really don't like that program. We're just doing a lot of things that we don't need to be doing, but it's been administered here for so long that people are kind of used to coming to us for the damage assessment. But at some point, if Greg retires or is not able to do that, I think we'll have to reassess how we do that. And of course, anybody that has shooting tags usually has a couple neighbors that really don't like them, so. Yeah, we haven't, again, complaints and runoff related stuff, despite, well, we had a lot of rain in this very southern part of the county, but not much manure has been spread yet, so.
Oh,
Not
I
much
see a
for
lot of the
complaints,
fields
but-
that got rained on. How many days they got
From what,
until then?
72 hours if it wasn't injected, so.
I don't think it made it.
But that's only for CAFOs and if you're within 300 feet of a stream. If you're outside of that, the small farms don't have to do anything, so. Which is probably unfortunate.
I'm not sure where it came from. It's on Highway T. You must have, no way, you don't go that way. You live
But there was spreading there
and on Tank Road,
over the weekend, yeah. A lot of it.
but I don't know where it was coming from. I don't,
Well, it was,
Yeah, you got a few choices in that neighborhood.
yeah.
but the road was really full
Oh,
of.
Highway T was?
Yeah, T and Madden.
See, I was thinking maybe it was Madden spreading because I didn't see much manure on T. Usually I get a complaint. I didn't get a complaint,
No.
so.
But Madden, I don't know if they did or not, but I can't think of his name now.
Oh,
Neighbor.
Tell you what, too, when you see a lot of spillage on the road, what I notice is the farms that are CAFOs, the ones that have to report to DNR, are pretty good about coming to clean it up.
Egan's ain't big enough. They ain't capable.
They are CAFO, yeah.
They are.
Well, that's what we usually see is the CAFOs tend to clean up because they don't want the bad press. The smaller farms tend to not clean up.
I didn't see no manure come out of Egan's driveway. Usually there is, but
Well, I'm guessing in the next month and a half, we're gonna see a lot of it everywhere. So,
yeah. I mean, it was pretty thick on the fields.
And in the road.
I didn't see it on the roads.
Madden Road was yesterday or day before.
So other than that, the management department head team, discussion was mostly about the budget and the personnel costs and all of that seems to be moving along here, so. I don't really have much else. I'll be leaving on Tuesday next week for 9 days in Colorado.
You have enough for a meeting in November? or-
Well, that's kind of what I was alluding to. I'm
I
gonna
mean, you
be,
don't have to meet for the sake of meeting.
I'm gonna be off in almost 2 weeks to Colorado and then probably another few days hunting here before the next meeting date normally would be, so.
Let's make it in December then.
We could pass right on to December.
Right
'Cause
time of year for this stuff, right?
it is, we're just busy, the guys just got a lot of projects to get in. There's nothing special going on other than work, so.
Minority complaints, I got your cell phone.
Call them up, Ken. Out west. Hey,
As long as you don't have my inReach, Ken,
what's the first Monday in December?
I'm just looking for that. The 4th.
That's crazy December. I don't wanna think about that.
It is, isn't it?
God.
But it's gonna be 86 today, Cindy.
I know.
8 o'clock,
8 o'clock is fine.
Freaks.
order to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Said, Brazil, winter just finished and it was 110.